Welcome to the Story Engine Podcast, where we teach you how to make marketing easier, more powerful, and fun through storytelling. I'm your host, Kyle Gray. Each week we learn from top entrepreneurs, influencers, and world changers on how to share your story through content, copywriting, and speaking, and how to make your message your most powerful marketing tool. Let's get started. Mike Bledsoe, welcome to the Story Engine Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
I'm really excited to get to unpack your mind and your experience and a lot of it of what you bring to the world today. And for those of you who don't know you yet, I'd love to introduce you properly. Can you tell me a story about a moment in your life that's defined who you are and how you're showing up in the world today?
Yeah, I went into business. My first business was in 2007, and I had a unhealthy relationship with business in the beginning, and then over the years I realized, I need to learn how to actually do these things, and I'm not above the rules of other people. I used to think, I'm special and this and that, and I know better, and so I wasn't very good at listening in the very beginning. And I started making small improvements. Okay, I'll learn from this person. I'll rip this seminar off of Pirate Bay and watch this business seminar here or there. And I made gradual improvements, and I got to where I had a successful gym, and by normal standards, and I had a semi-successful podcast, and we were getting up to where we were ranked number one on iTunes and in the fields like nutrition and health, and I guess we were doing pretty good. But I was miserable, and I felt like I was bumping up again. I was very much so bumping up against the ceiling. Because I was doing a lot of things. I was maxed out on my time. I didn't know how to be as effective. I really wanted to become more effective. I go to this marketing conference, and I go, okay, I'm going to learn some marketing. And I get in there, and there's bonus days. And I show up this marketing conference. I go to the first bonus day, and it's like, today, we're going to learn how to learn. I go, I don't know what that means, but I'm ready. And I got introduced to unlearning. And fast forward a few days, we end up in this marketing exercise where we're doing empathy. And I've got this worksheet, and I'm going to team up with somebody else, and we're going to do this. I'm going to learn how to be more empathetic, because if I can feel what my customers are feeling and have the experience of my customers, then I'll really be able to talk to them, right? And historically, I had been a very good student, straight A's, always paid attention, never was late, always on time, and here I am failing this. I can't even touch the piece of paper. I had no concept of what empathy was, and so I leave the conference early that day, which I would never leave because I'm a good student. And the next day I showed up late. I went and watched a movie while there was this conference. I spent $7,000 to attend. I went and watched a movie. All right. Crazy. And it was the most money I'd ever spent on education up until that point. It was serious business for me. And so I go, you know what? I don't need the empathy thing. Screw that. It's not for me. I'm smart. I'll figure other things out. Forget about it. I keep going to the conference. I find some really cool stuff. I learn a lot of stuff. And, but before I left the conference, I really got hit with this idea, and I look back and it was a combination of things that led to this idea formulating in my mind. Maybe it was spirit that was talking to me, and that is, you should eat some mushrooms, the psychedelic type of mushrooms. So I go, I don't know why I've got to eat these mushrooms, but I'm going to do it. So I knew a guy And by the way, before then, I thought that the only people eating psychedelic mushrooms were dumb hippies, right? So I go, all right, you know what? I'm gonna try it out. Tuesday afternoon, I'm gonna eat 2.5 grams and go to the park. I do that, lay down, and I have the biggest revelation of my life that day. Is first, I experienced the entire world and recognized, and I witnessed it break into fractals and fall inside of me, and realized that what I'm experiencing in the world is running through the filter of my senses and my experience, and everything that I'm seeing is something that I'm creating. And with that knowledge came extreme personal responsibility and understanding that I am the one that is creating my reality. I'm the one responsible for where I'm at right now, and anything I don't like in my life, that I'm the one who created it, and if I'm the one that gets to change it. For one, I didn't see that one coming, and that popped in. Later on in the experience, I witnessed people bringing their dogs to a dog park. I'm not paying very good attention to the dogs. I'm having all this empathy for these dogs. I'm going, pay attention to your dogs. You just got off work. You should be paying attention to them. And then realizing I don't pay attention to my dog when I bring my dog to the dog park that well. And being outside isn't enough. The dog wants interaction. Oh, I do this to my mom. Oh, I do this to my wife. Oh, I do this to my clients. And I realized that I wasn't giving anybody my full attention. And I was always waiting. Even though I had read the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, I was like, oh yeah, be interested in other people so they'll be interested in you and all this stuff. It was, for the first time, I actually got interested enough in other people. And I was willing to be wrong. And I was willing to listen. And that was really, I mean, we could look back at all sorts of different moments where there was a domino that was knocked over and fell, but that was really the one that I recognized that I was wrong about almost everything in my life up until that point, and I started the process of uncovering what is true and really becoming more interested in other people's experiences. And when I became more interested in other people's experiences, life got a lot more easy.
There's a lot of depth in there and a ton of follow-up questions I have, but it leads into something I wanted to discuss with you, because this sounds like the beginning of creating a culture, your own culture, and I know from knowing you that some of the work you've done since this moment you're describing is heavily based in empathy, entirely based in empathy. So there's been a lot of growth since then. And what it sounds like here from this moment was a taking on of a personal responsibility that you had not done before. And now we stand, however many years later this is, and you're at a point in your businesses, and we should like hear about this or share a little bit about this, but you're at a point where you've brought on talented team members to help you carry this vision forward. And events and products and things are happening without your direct control. And this is a good thing. Though the story you were just telling me, in that moment, that's not what you needed or what you wanted. But tell me since then, how empathy has evolved and played a role in you getting to where you are right now.
Yeah, the accessing empathy was really an opening of my heart. And the thing about the heart is it when you really tap into it, you can find what it is that you care about. Like, oh, this is what I actually care about when I drop into that space here in my chest. What causes expansion there? And that's great and all. And I know a lot of people, I think we have a culture in the United States where a lot of people do find themselves caring a lot, right? And it shows up very passionately, and usually with the younger crowd, it's even more passionate, very in touch with your heart. However, there's a disconnect between the heart and the mind, and that's because your mind, when you discover your heart and you get in touch with your heart, your mind was designed from a place of being out of touch with your heart. And so the thoughts, the way that language is constructed, the way where you place your attention, how you perceive threats, or how you perceive things that aren't really threats, but you perceive them as threats. These are all conditions that you have practiced over and over and over. And so the mind, the nervous system, all this stuff is conditioned to operate a certain way from a place where the mind is in control and the heart is not in control. So having a heart-opening experience is not enough. Having a heart-opening experience can cause deep depression. It can cause all sorts of problems. A lot of people end up on some type of antidepressant or anti-anxiety prescription when their heart opens up, and then there's a conflict between their thoughts and their heart, and now they're having all these issues. They don't know how to deal with it. They don't know how to cope with it. What are these feelings? I don't know if I want to feel this anymore. Oh my gosh, I need to take a pill. Let's just suppress our heart again so I can get back to work, and I can go do that corporate gig that I need, that paycheck, and I need that health insurance for my kids and whatever else, everything that comes from fear. And so the part of what I discovered was, okay, I've got to align my mind to my heart, which means I have to change my language. I have to change where the attention of my mind is from moment to moment. Yeah, my heart might care, but maybe my mind is worried about all these things that might harm me, or looking good, or needing to be right, and all these things that the mind creates that comes from fear. And you've got to start tuning the mind from a place of love. So it's not something that's overnight. It's not like, oh, a lot of people have this, I have this great awakening experience, and then they get back in their life and things aren't, as great as it was when you had that moment. And it feels like, oh, I have this knowing, and then you have all these old patterns that come rushing in. So it takes practice with new language tools. We use in our companies, we use Vocabulary, we use Enlifted. These are language technologies. I attended circling events, things where it was relational meditation, using language to hear what someone else's experience is and learning how to get clarity on it. And so what I mean when I change my language, I change how I communicate, and I change how I listen. And I really start listening to somebody's heart versus exactly what their words are saying. Because a lot of times people will have a hard time describing their own heart, and it can take some translation from me. And in our company, when we go back to like company culture, in our companies, we all have the same language training. We only work with people who are operating from their heart. They've had that experience of their heart opening, and then they've also got the language tools to speak into what's happening for them, and into that experience. And being able to connect your mind and your heart is not a quick, easy process. It takes time. It takes repetition. You screw up. You get off track. You may get off track for a month or two where you realize, oh man, I'm back in that from a place of leading from my mind, not leading from my heart. And so but because we do that, we don't need, we're much more effective, and I can trust. It's easy to trust my team to execute on things that I may not be participating in as heavily, because I know they're operating from their heart and they know how to communicate. And if something comes up, we work through it quickly.
Mike, I've spent a lot of my life, I got a bunch of school, some extra school, got a good college education, all this and that. And I spent a lot of time honing and refining my mind. And I see a lot of people have been brought up and experienced the same thing. We've practiced our mind. And one of my biggest challenges that I've been working through, as you've been describing, is being able to operate from my heart. It's not easy to trust. It's not easy to be there and operate from that. It feels vulnerable and messy, or you wait until your thoughts are all clear before you do something, even when you have a feeling.
Yeah.
And this is a big challenge for many leaders, many people who want to persuade and help and influence people face this in some way. What are some of the language tools that you've described that helps people kind of become aware of like what it feels like to be leading from your head versus your heart?
Right. So by the way, if you only use the language tools, then you haven't cracked open into your heart yet, then they're going to be about 10% as effective as if you're building this language while having an open heart. So it's good, but you got to know where you're. It's one of those things like, all right, we're going to fire a rocket off in this direction. So like the heart is the fuel, and the mind is like is causing it the direction of the rocket to go somewhere. Yeah. It's the aim. It's the ability to aim. It's the precision. I'd say the heart even creates like this is the area we're moving into. But if you're 1% off, if your mind is taking control and not operating from the heart, then you're gonna end up being very accomplished. You'll be very successful and unhappy. And so just as a caveat there. And as you're doing the mind work, as you start doing the language work to do that, a lot of times the heart starts speaking up. So you can use a lot of the language stuff, but be tuning into your heart as you do it and go, oh, that's actually my heart that's speaking. So a really quick, easy one is speaking about what you do want versus what you do not want. And so do this practice of what is it, set a goal or think about a relationship that you're in or what you want to happen in your career, and write down the things you do want to happen in all those areas. And what ends up happening is a lot of people will start writing out what they don't want to happen. Or and writing it down, it causes you to slow down and you can be really methodical with it. Also listen when you're talking to other people. And listen to other people, and you're going to hear other people say 9 out of 10 things that you start asking other people what they want, they're going to come back with all the things they don't want. You're like, when you get really tuned into what's happening, you go, oh, this is interesting. So, what do you want? And someone comes back with what they don't want, or it's easier to identify things we don't want. That means that we're more conditioned to operate out of fear, in the mind, and which is ego, which is there to protect you. It's there as a protection mechanism. The trouble is our parents normally taught us from the very beginning, because they're conditioned to survive. So that the survival tool is not a threat. I don't want to die. We got to make all this happen. And getting into your language, what do you want? And so just be on the lookout for words like don't, can't, won't. How much of your language is dominated by those words versus like can, will, does, the affirmative side of that. So we have negations on one side, we have affirmations on the other side. So what is the affirmative of that? And if you do write down all the things you don't want, all right, can you turn those into an affirmation? Well, if you don't want your girlfriend to cheat on you, what do you want, right? People get in a relationship and they're experiencing insecurities like, oh, I just don't want my girlfriend. I've heard this before. I don't want my girlfriend to cheat on me. I'm like, well, what do you want with your girlfriend? And they go, oh, I don't know. I was like, so your entire consciousness is focused on being cheated on. What's going to happen? She's probably going to cheat on you. And you probably chose the type of person who's going to do that because you chose a relationship coming from a place of fear of, I don't want to be cheated on. But you're focused on being cheated on the whole time. So, just as an example. And so when we're speaking from the heart, it's a lot easier to know what we do want, because the heart is where creation comes from. You can actually create from there. And using negations is a form of destruction, and which is useful in different times. I'm not saying it's always bad, but negation doesn't come from the heart. Negation comes from the mind, and from the heart comes creation. And creative language lacks negation.
So, what you're describing here, a method and a tool for using your language. Um, I've been practicing similar things, and one of the things I've noticed is you can start to tell who's in the club pretty quickly. You can have a conversation with somebody, and a common person may speak in the ways that you described, and you'll notice when somebody is like very careful with their words, and you'll feel it. And what that is to me is it's creating a culture, and this was like tools that you use to actively create a personal culture for yourself as a tool. But this is also when you see somebody who's in this club per se of like figuring out, okay, I'm in the fight club of my language or whatever, then there's something more than just a behavioral pattern there. And for the last few years in building a few of the businesses you've been working on, you've been creating a culture like that. Can you describe the process of like, when did it start to look like this was something bigger than just, working on our language, or bigger than a program? Like, when did you start to see there's like a movement and a culture behind what you're doing?
There's a couple things. One was things were happening without me, and without me even knowing about it. There were processes happening in the business, and there was things happening communally between my staff and our clients. And I was going, oh man, a month later, I was like, oh, we do that? Cool. I didn't know we did that. And it's like, I'm totally on board with that. I wouldn't have done it that way, but that's awesome. And it was a lot easier for me because I'm not, the business isn't me. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of times people have a hard time with things happening outside of themselves. Like when they're heavily associated with, oh, the business is who I am. It's like, the business isn't who I am. It's a different entity. And so I started witnessing that. And then one of the things the other thing is the language. Language started, so we have our foundational language tools in the business, and if we look at vocabulary, landmark education, these are things that, and also things from the Integral Center. I've got 3 different education backgrounds where language components are really heavy, and I teach those to everybody on the team. So we have that layer, that foundational language, and then we start adding in our own language. It's like, the mentors call their mentees. They actually, somehow there was a joke at some point, and now they're manatees. So the mentors all have manatees, and it's been going that way for over a year. And I remember being on a call, and I go, what the hell is a manatee? Oh, that's what we call our mentees. And I was like, oh, cool, love it. People started referring to our program as the rocket ship. It's like, oh, have you gotten on the rocket ship yet? I didn't come up with rocket ship. I didn't come up with manatee. And so these additional cultural stories, these words represent an idea of like, oh, have you done this yet? Or who are you inside of this community? It's like, oh, I'm a manatee. I'm a coach, or I'm a whatever. And so all these things started emerging without any of my input. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. This is I've done a great job in a lot of ways. But yeah, those are the signs of like culture taking off without me even.
Before we had gotten on the camera, you were describing hiring and building your team, and you had mentioned that everybody that's on your team has gone through the processes, understands this. You've indoctrinated them through the process as a customer first, and then they've selected themselves essentially to fill the role to continue this vision. Can you describe what like the advantages are of having a team that's been brought up? It's not possible for everybody or every business to have a team, that works like this or goes through this process. But I think there's things that could be adapted for many practices.
Yeah, so we have a big benefit because, as a business and your culture, every business has a culture where they want, whether they put attention on it or not. And so if you look at a lot of companies that are growing quickly, a big focus of theirs is culture. And Peter Drucker said it best, I think, he said, culture eats strategy culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Depends on the culture.
Yeah,
it depends if they're a dinner culture.
Yeah, we're intermittent fasting, so it's lunch now, or technically breakfast still. But yeah, and it's true. I've gotten to witness that, and so every company has a culture, and it's based off the leadership and how the leaders are behaving, how they're speaking, all that type of stuff is going to attract the type of people. There's the culture for clients, there's culture for staff. You're going to attract a certain culture of human being to you. And then once you get them in your organization, what are you doing to develop the culture? Because once you attract somebody on your team and they're buying into your culture, or they're automatically, that's just their culture, like they're already a pretty good cultural fit. If you're not developing culture, then you're going to be out of alignment still in the business, because everyone has their own ideas, their own language, or all this and that. And that's what I see in most companies. They're able to attract, but they're not developing culture. And we have this, and I remember running a previous business, and I was like, I want my culture to be better. I'm like studying all this stuff. And then now I've got a company where the culture is or a couple companies where the culture is so solid with almost no effort. And it was because I had to clean up a bunch of my own stuff. And the previous culture was my culture. It was a reflection of me. And so in my current businesses, the culture is still a reflection of me. The difference is because people came through as customers first, is they became indoctrinated into the culture. I told them, hey, let's change how you speak. This is how you tune into your heart. This is how you know you're tuned into your heart. When there's conflict, this is how you can resolve conflict quickly, easily. This is how you not only resolve conflict, but how do we resolve conflict that creates more connection and intimacy? It's like most conflict results in more like, fuck you, right? It's more disconnection. And so we have all these things that we're teaching them on how to live a better life. And then they finish the program, and every single person on the team has completed at least one of our programs. Most of them have completed all of our programs, and between different companies too. I have people in one company that complete the program in the other company, and vice versa. So there's a lot of cross-pollination there. And so we're very fortunate that we get to create culture with our customers. The culture in our customers and the culture in our staff are almost identical. And so that gives me a really awesome pool to hire from. I have a need in my business. We've served hundreds of clients. All right, I have these hundreds of clients. And by the way, they've been through the process, so they're high performers. So we're training people to be more effective. It's like, I've got 300 highly effective people that are a culture fit to start a conversation with. It's like, who does social media? I'm like, okay, well, we can find someone who's going to be a culture fit there. And so we're very, very blessed. I think that if somebody is running a company where their customers don't become their staff, that's fine. But it's become very obvious to me that it would be very, very easy to create a 90-day indoctrination process for someone that's coming in. Is indoctrination too strong of a word?
It depends on the person. I think I understand it, and I don't feel offended by it.
Yeah. So it is. It is. It's like
Yeah.
this is how we think,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so everybody's indoctrinated into something, right? And so a very effective process is we've got to unlearn some patterns before we can learn some new learning. So, and I think any business could put together a 90-day program for people that are coming into their companies that would get them on the same page. And also, if people resist it, then they're not a fit for the culture. You know, if somebody can't, I've had someone recently that they didn't take advantage of a lot of things. It's like, man, people are paying thousands of dollars for the thing that we're just saying you have it for free. You get, and they're not taking advantage of it. Like, it's not a culture fit. Yeah, they don't care. Like, it comes down to what we care about. Everyone in our culture cares about the same things.
It's huge, and I'm looking back on even my year right now. When I started this year, I had a big team of, well, not a huge team, but I had 4 stay-at-home moms that worked for me from across the country, across North America. Killer writer, great designer, technician, project manager, and a lot of the things were going really well. But I can see now how the culture of it was not like always, or it reflected on me, and instead of being intentional in creating how we do this or what our projects want to look like and what does success look like for us. Each person, they were inspired. I attracted them, and they were energized by what I was doing. But it's true that the leaks in the culture just made it so that the products I was creating, they were effective, they worked well, but there was often like bumps. It wasn't this like seamless, beautiful thing where when I just focus on presenting with people, they can really feel the depth. And so I can see that in the value in being intentional. And now you're at a point where a lot of these things you're putting people into their places. What's the process of letting go of a lot of these things look like for you?
My one line is make myself unnecessary. If I can make myself unnecessary, then I've done a great job as a leader, right? And I like that phrase because it isn't a direct assault on the ego. Because the ego wants to be necessary. And most entrepreneurs who go into business, it is coming from a place of ego. If you would ask me that 5 years ago, it's like, are you building out of ego? I'm like, no. But I was, and ego's not an enemy. Ego is an ally. You got to make friends with it. If you are in a battle with the ego, it ain't going anywhere. You might be able to dissipate it for 15 minutes on, some psychedelic experience, but it's there. It's there to protect you. It has a job. It's your ally, but it's not who you are. And so you got to put the ego in its place. Like, it does get to eat at the dinner table, but it's not at the head of the table. And so being unnecessary puts ego down at the foot of the table, and that's good. And there's so many moments I can identify the feeling. It's like, okay, someone's doing something where they're getting the attention, like they're gonna get the credit, and there's this little feeling that pops up inside of my body, and I go, is this? It feels like something's being taken away from me. Right? It's like, I'm losing something. Like, humans were very risk averse, right? Or loss averse. There's a loss aversion there. It's like people will double down on not losing something over gaining something, right? There's a lot of research on that. And so there's that feeling of when I see someone else getting the attention and putting something together. And years ago, I used to do things like act like it's not as good. Maybe I wasn't like overtly shit talking or anything like that, but I would my tools that I learned is if I don't like something or somebody, then they get ignored. And so I just give them none of my attention. And because one of my superpowers is I can direct other people's attention easily, and in a youthful, immature version of that superpower being put to use is look at me, right? And then as we heal some wounds and we learn that we're not our ego and that we've been operating from ego and so on and so forth, and we heal those wounds and we go, oh, well, I'm good. I give myself attention. I don't need attention from other people. I'm good. But I've got this superpower I built up from my youth that was a survival mechanism that I had created. Well, now it's a strength. It's like, oh, I can direct people's attention. I'm practicing directing on me. Now I got to practice directing it on other people. It's like, okay, I see someone doing something that I wish I had done. Direct the attention on them. Oh my God, awesome job. Mm-hmm. Like, how can I support you? Do you need any advice? How do you want me to show up in this situation? All these things. Does that feeling still come up? Yes. That feeling used to run the show. That feeling would come up, and I didn't want to feel that feeling. I didn't want to feel like I wasn't getting, like something was being taken away from me. And I hated that feeling so much that I would do things unconsciously to get the attention back to me. So now it's, oh, I feel that feeling. There you are, old friend. Thank you for reminding me that I'm human. Take a breath. Okay, how can I be in support of the thing that I'm witnessing that's so beautiful?
Yeah, and get back to the end of the table. And if you want seconds, you better stop acting up, ego.
That's right. That's right. But then I can call on that energy of the ego to make something good really happen. But it's again, the heart is directing the ego. Yeah. It's not the ego just running around the ego's a child, just running around doing dumb things. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, we see it all the time. People, a 40-year-old man throwing a temper tantrum. It's like, if you could just take a look at that guy and go, all right, if this was a 4-year-old, would this look appropriate? It's appropriate for a 4-year-old, but not a 40-year-old. And so that's a sure sign that somebody is still immature in that part of their life.
I only get like that when somebody gets my coffee orders wrong these days, so I'm pretty stable.
What's your relationship to coffee? We need a therapy session.
That would be a good one. That would be a good one. So you've been going through this. You've created a culture that's growing and sustaining, and you've got it on the right track, and you're enabling yourself to let go. So you have this new wealth of resources and energy, and you've freed yourself up. You've created a powerful platform, and you've freed yourself again. So somebody who's created great podcasts, has achieved a lot in their lives, and now has created a great deal of influence. What does this make available to you? What's your new role in your life and in your companies and in your business that really inspires you?
When I stopped looking for it is when it became easy, and that is to create a really clear vision of the future for myself to live into, and for my teams to live into as well. And I remember struggling with, okay, I'm the CEO of this company. I'm supposed to create a vision. All right, I'm gonna open up this book, and it's got this steps. I'm gonna follow the steps, and I'm gonna create a vision, because we got to be going somewhere, right? You can build a decent business with heart-centered people who are mentally sharp, but if we don't have where we're going, we don't have a mission other than we're just gonna help our customers, because that's how we operated for a little bit. Because I personally, when I started my last business, I was like, I'm really not that interested in making money. Money's not a big driver for me, like fancy cars, all that kind of stuff. And so I wasn't that motivated. So the culture of my company was like, yeah, we live good lives. We were very driven. We've been very driven by lifestyle. It's like, oh, we make 10 grand if someone can make 10 grand a month and then travel around and have a good time, that's good enough. And so what this has allowed me is being in that space where it's a space of abundance is what it is where it's like, oh, okay, everything's cool, everything's great, the company's making enough money that everyone's comfortable. It's like, okay, now, and no one's there because they need the paycheck. No one, everyone could leave and go get paid, maybe even better. No one, they're not there because they're whatever out of fear. They're there because they love the culture, they love the people they're helping, they see the difference we're making in people's lives. And so we're sitting there, and this is giving me the space, and you need space to have clarity of vision. And so what's really allowed me to do now is say, hey, this is where we're going, and this is why we're going there. This is a clear path for the entire company. So now I've got this line of tension going from where we are now to where we're gonna go and where we're going, and then inspiring people to step into action. It's like, okay, I know you care, and we've aligned our minds, but nothing in the world changes until there's action, right? And aligned action, that is aligned with the heart and the mind. And so that's the conversation that I get to be in with my team. Because I've become unnecessary, I've been able to dream bigger. So now I know not only do I have a vision for the companies and where we're going individually we have a 10-year vision. We know where we're going to be in 10 years. And that informs our 1-year vision. But not only that, it's like, well, all right, so we love helping our customers. We want to help a lot of people. Big deal. What else are we going to do? Oh, we're actually, one of the things that came through in vision in the last week with my business partner is we're creating a trust in which our staff are part of the trust, and the company funds it, and this trust buys properties that are specifically for retreat centers, and are part of our vision, which is provided by one of my staff, is to be the leaders in the healing industry. And you may not have heard of that because I'm not sure there is a healing industry. We have a healthcare industry, which is technically insurance companies, hospitals, and pharmaceutical companies. That's not really healthcare, right? So we go, well, we can't call it that because people have an idea what that means. It's like, oh, the healing industry. So we are buying properties. We're starting retreat centers where real healing can happen. We're healing the land with regenerative farming practices because all of this ties together. You can't have an unhealthy planet and healthy human bodies. If there's unhealthy human bodies, it's because you're in an unhealthy environment. And hospitals don't seem very healthy to me. So as you can tell, I'm like getting more passionate as I'm speaking. And my team is passionate about this as well. It's like, yes, we can serve our customers, we can make a lot of money, but what are we going to do with the money? We're going to do more good. We're going to do something that is generational. People that have kids, they get that. They understand what it means to have a generational impact. So before I had the space to have vision, it was, all right, we need to hit these numbers so everyone can get paid. Don't you want to make more money? What's it matter? Most people are happy with what they're getting paid. You know it because they're still on their job. If they were unhappy enough, they would leave and do something else. They'd figure something out. Human beings are smart if they let themselves be. But yeah, this is the vision I've been able to expand into in the last few months. I've been able to expand the vision of my company. I've been able to expand what is the real value we get to bring to the world. And because the company as we operate are bringing value to the world, but what's the biggest impact? When we look at the planet as a whole and we go, what's going to make the biggest impact for the human race? Let's get back in touch with nature. Get back in touch with the spirit of who we are. And that doesn't happen in cubicles, and it doesn't happen in front of computer screens, and it doesn't happen in a 45-minute commute, listening to the propaganda being pumped through what is normally called news media.
That makes a lot of sense. And you've taken us on a really big journey of personal development and personal ownership, and actually how it moved through itself into something much bigger. And I think a lot of people that want to start something, that want to inspire people, that want to change people's minds, could learn a lot from your story and the growth that you've experienced as you've been learning more and rewriting your story time and time again to best serve those around you and yourself. Do you have any closing thoughts you'd want to share with us? And also tell us if somebody's interested, like how can they get in touch and how can they get involved in some of these communities?
Yeah. If you're somebody who really wants to make a change in the world, you got to be careful, because there's a lot of people wanting to make a difference, and that difference a lot of times is coming from a wound. It's coming from a place of not being good enough in your own life in some way. There's something that's fucked up in the world out there, and I've got to change it. And I really invite people to ask yourself, have I done the work in my own life around that area myself? Really, because you're not going to fix your life by changing the world. You're going to change the world by changing how you show up in your own life. And there's a lot of people who do care a lot that have not gone and done the healing necessary. And there's a lot of people that are also like really are like, oh, I'm so self-expressed. And I go, great, what are you expressing? Are you expressing a wound? And are you projecting that out in the world and creating more harm? Or are you projecting love? Have you healed that wound and now you're coming from a place of love? Those energies are extremely different. They're opposites. One causes damage, one creates. And so really check in with yourself. You may be passionate about something, but check in with why you're passionate about it. Are you passionate about something because of something that happened in your past? And you're trying to make sure it like there's this fear energy around it, or is it are you completely unattached as you're moving through it? So that's one of my big things that I really encourage people to do, is because I think people can hear what I'm saying and go, I'm super passionate, I want to do it like he's doing it or something like that. And I'm like, hang on, pump the brakes. Because there's a lot of things that I was wanting to change about the world back in the day, and thank God I was not successful, because it would have been a mess. Actually, everything I was doing was a mess, because it was hard. You'll know it's a mess because it'll be hard, right? If it feels hard and you're grinding up against the wall, turn inside. There's something there for you. So that's what I got for a closing thought. And if for people who are interested in the work that I'm doing, we have an emotional resilience training. It's so good for leaders, and that's called Training Camp for the Soul. You can go to trainingcampforthesoul.com for that. If you're a coach and you want to build your coaching business, and you also want a lot of these skills I was talking about around language, you can go to thestrongcoach.com and check that out there.
Do I need to be a fitness coach?
You do not need to be a fitness coach. We do appeal primarily to fitness coaches because that's where I came from. And like, here's the truth, is if you're not taking care of your physical body, I don't care, that's how you stabilize healing, is through physical practice. So, but we do have coaches that come in of all stripes, even relationship coaches and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Perfect. Mike, it's been such a pleasure having you on the podcast with us today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Kyle.
Thanks for listening to the Story Engine podcast. Be sure to check out the show notes and resources mentioned in this episode and every episode at thestoryengine.co. If you want to tell better stories and grow your business with content marketing and copywriting, be sure to download the Content Strategy Template at contentstrategytemplate.com. This template is an essential part of any business that wants to boost their traffic, leads, and sales with content marketing. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.